Greetings, welcome back to my channel, and today we're making Dahl Puri Roti, and I hope you enjoy the video. Before we get too far into the video, I just want you to know that this roti is going to require some time and patience because there is quite a bit of steps and it takes quite a bit of time because you're going to need to rest your dough multiple times at multiple intervals, but it's totally worth it. So you're just going to need some split peas. I'll have the measurements in the description bar below, but you're going to need split peas and you're just going to wash it like you should wash everything else and put it to your stove to boil for about 20 to 30 minutes in order to get to the texture that you need. You want to add just a toops of salt, just a little toops of salt in the water. Now, after your peas have been boiling for 20 to 30 minutes, you want it to get to that consistency that you just saw. It is important to not get the peas too soft because that messes with how it will grind and come to a powdery consistency. So you want it to be like a parboiled peas, but you don't want it too tough. So while our peas cools and dry, we're going to work on our dough, and what you'll need is flour, salt, baking powder, and a bit of sugar. So what you do is just incorporate everything before you start adding the wet ingredients, which is just water. But you want to just incorporate everything so that one pack of salt, no day so one pack of baking, but So what you'll need is warm water. You don't want it piping hot, but you want the water to be warm. And your dough should be not tight. I don't want to say loose because it's going to be a formed dough. We are ever so lightly incorporating the flour and the water. So what I do is just push the flour around, get it saturated, and add more water as I go. I'll also be squeezing and smushing the dough between my fingers, which makes it form better but not like kneaded, so it's not tight. Once the dough comes together like this, you can then begin kneading it. Do not knead for a very long time. You just want it to become a ball. Once it forms into that ball, we're going to have it rest for 45 minutes to an hour. I like to wrap mine in clear wrap, but if you don't have that, you can just leave it in the bowl and cover it with a damp towel. And now the time has come to grind our peas and make it into powder. If you don't have a food processor, you can use a blender, or you can put the peas into a Ziploc bag and use a rolling pin or whatever you can to roll the peas. It's going to take a longer time, but it does work. So you're just going to grind your peas. I like to pulse mine for a bit before I start adding anything into it. So I add 2 cloves of garlic and a stalk of eskellion, and you just pulse it until I add a piece of Scotch bonnet. Depending on how spicy you like things, you can add a whole Scotch bonnet. I really advise that. But if you know say you like it spicy, you can add a whole Scotch bonnet. After I pulse that, I then add a bit of seasonings just to give it a little more flavor. I don't use salt because everything else had a bit of salt. You get what I mean? So like all purpose have salt, so why add extra salt? The seasonings are onion powder, oregano, and all-purpose seasoning, and you want it to get to this powdery like consistency. So yeah. We are now going to form our dough into balls. So what you want to do is just cut Divide the dough or cut it, depending on how you want it, into smaller segments. So I get 6 balls from mine. You can most definitely get smaller balls, but I prefer to have 6 just because it's easier for me to work the dough around the pea filling. Once you have your desired size, we're going to now tuck the ends in on themselves. After you've done that, you're going to flip the dough over and start to form a better ball. You can use one hand or both to just tuck the underside in on itself and just roll it until it makes a ball just like that. Repeat that, and then you're going to leave them to rest. Cover them with a damp cloth so that they don't dry out. And this is one of the most difficult parts of this. It's not hard, but it takes technique. And if you get it wrong the first time, that's fine, because it's not very easy. So what you want to do is roll out your dough ball into a disc shape and try to put some filling inside it. I use about 4 pinches and just pack it inside it. Push it down because it's dry, so it's compact. So you can just push it down. And you want to leave room for the ends to close. So once you get everything in there, try to push it down, and then you want to pull one end of the dough and just start pinching it on itself. So that's what I do, and I go around in a circle. You can see it's still sticking on my hand, so you probably need a little flour there. Push it down as you go on and pack. Once you have completely closed the opening, you want to reinforce that. So try to pinch it together as tightly as you can without ripping it, because if you rip it, that's a whole nother problem. Once again, you want to form your dough ball into a disc. You do not want the disc too thin, because we have to form this into a ball once more and roll it out. So you don't want the dough going beyond a 1/2 inch in thickness. So once you pack it again, you're just going to pinch the ends onto themselves like that and close it. Once you close it, reinforce your close and roll it into a ball once more and allow it to rest. It's finally time to form your roti. You're going to need flour because you want to flour your surface, your rolling pin, and your dough. It's important to have a well floured surface and dough because you don't want any of the dough sticking to anything, because if that happens, it's going to rip and the filling will be exposed. So you want to take your time and you want to gently roll it out as thinly as you'd like, or as thinly as your pot will accommodate. If when you're rolling you come in contact with air bubbles, you can just take your time and gently roll them out and continue rolling your dough. So you just have to be very gentle. You are generously going to grease your pan with oil, any oil that you like, vegetable, coconut, olive, whichever one. And you just want it to be on medium to high heat. You don't want it too high or too low. Once you have greased your pan, you're going to put your roti on it. That is also very tedious. Just be very gentle, because again, we don't want it to rip. Once you've gotten your roti into your pan, you're going to oil the surface of the roti and allow it to cook. Estimating the cook time for your roti, or knowing when your roti is finished cooking, is quite simple. If you did not get any rips into the dough, you'll notice that it starts to inflate and rise. Once it has completely risen, then you may flip it and it should be brown on the bottom side. It is very wobbly at this point, so be careful not to drop it. If you can just hold one end of it and turn it over, but and it's going to deflate and finish on the other side. It takes about a minute on each side. And that's pretty much it. That's how you make dal puri roti. All you need is, again, some time and patience, and be very gentle with your dough because she's very delicate. Just grease your pan, grease your roti, and flip. And always, thank you so much for watching my video.